Okay, so now if and else statement. I have some examples on the bottom, so you can just go through. So the if statement, so it just reads if x is equal to 2, greater than 2, puts this. Else if, notice that it doesn't have e here between s and I. It's just ELSIF, and that would, and then when you're done with the if statement, then you just put an end, and this should work. So when I run this, what will be the output? X is not greater than 2, so it goes into this. And if x is greater than, oh, this is wrong. If x is smaller than 2, and x is, let's just make it easier, greater than 0, then x is 1, else. Okay, so if I run this, save it, and then I do Ruby exercise, it says x is equal to 1. If I say x is equal to 5, and then run it and save it, it will say x is greater than 2, because that's what I put over here. So another thing is, you will note that in Ruby, semicolon is optional, and a new line does it. So parenthesis like this is optional too. So you could do it like this, save it, and it runs exactly the same. It doesn't give you any error, but in Ruby you can ignore those parentheses. So it's good and bad. It's good because you don't have to type so much, but it's also bad because if you're new to programming, it may not make sense that it is really this statement that you're passing to the if statement. But just going with the standard Ruby convention, if you don't need to put the parentheses, they usually just leave it out. Alright, now another thing that we can do, and this is also on the bottom, is we can say, let's say we want to put x is not 2 if x is not 2, like this. Okay, and we can also put x is greater than 2 if x is greater than 2. So I could put an if statement at the end, and it sounds like sounds just like English, right? We put this if that condition is true. So if I run this, what is it going to do? X is not equal to 2, so it's going to put this statement. X is greater than 2, so it's going to echo that statement as well. And if I run it, that's what it does. Now I can also do unless x is not 2. Okay, and there's also unless statement that I can do as well. So for the unless statement, I can put, this may require some thought, x is not 2. So put this unless x is really 2, because if x is really 2, we don't want to display this, right? So put this unless x is really 2. And if I run this, x is not 2. So this and that is the exact same thing. Unless is kind of unique to Ruby, but that is nice. And then for the case, I'm just going to copy and paste the example below. So you can do switch case using Ruby this way. So this is a range, which you will learn in a bit. So case age, and over here I guess we said age is a global variable. Let's change that to a local variable. So if I do this and run it, because x is specified as 5, this statement is true, and then it puts this. So case when, and then the logic goes over there. And then this is the default. So it's different from C, Java, PHP. Just learn the syntax. And again, you don't have to put parentheses. It just knows that that's part of the logical statement that it needs to evaluate. All right. So play around with this. Make sure you understand how this works. Maybe try different values. If I do 35, what's going to happen? It's not between 0 and 2, so it goes to the next one. It's not between 3 to 6. It goes all the way at the end and goes to the else statement and prints out adult. So if I save this and run it, sure enough, it says adult. So just focus on the syntax, get familiar with it, and then move on.